But for me personally, why I choose the Moors, right? It's because when I think about the way that they carried themselves intellectually and the lifestyle of being travelers or nomadic people, almost keepers and transmitters of knowledge, brought concepts of music and fashion and the culinary arts, medicine. So I'm just about to do a couple of voice memos here. I use this app called Otter. This is what it kind of looks like. But it's a voice transcription app, right? And it just allows me to speak, and it turns my speech into text. But today, I just got a lot on my mind. I mean, like the past week or so, I've been activated mentally, right? And just really needing that space to release and make sense of things, right? So what I've been thinking about recently is this project that I've started about the Moors, right? So we have the Moors of North Africa and, present day Spain, Portugal, right? And essentially the Moors, for those who are not familiar, were African peoples who migrated from ancient Egypt or Kemet, Kush Kemet, and also, peoples who were in earlier times had been in West Africa, places like Mali, northern West Africa, but around 410, as it's agreed upon, is when the Moors went out of Africa and into Europe, right? Went out of Africa and into Europe, bringing, different philosophies around math and science and the arts. They held control for about, 800 to 1,000 years. So a lot of what, like I've said in my previous vlogs, is that a lot of the civilization and culture that we associate with Europeans or being white, a lot of that origins come from the civilization and philosophy that Africans brought to Europeans, right? The project revolves around this idea of, if I were a Moor alive today, right? So taking into account that culture, that history, that knowledge, that modus operandi or mode of operation, how would I exist today to fulfill that same archetype? Basing myself in research, basing myself in the work of African scholars who tell us about the ethnography of the Moors, being that they are black people, right, originally. But for me personally, why I choose the Moors, right? It's because when I think about the way that they carried themselves intellectually and the lifestyle of being travelers or nomadic people, almost keepers and transmitters of knowledge, they understood navigation, they understood, they had to understand many different languages, how to communicate with different peoples and engage in trade. They were businessmen. When we're talking about warriorship, they were warriors. They, like I said, brought concepts of music and fashion and the culinary arts, medicine. So they were involved in all of these different areas, as a people, right? But then you have examples of Moors in particular who were these, what we now know as Renaissance men, like Leonardo da Vinci, who, is revered for his polymathic intelligence, or his intelligence in many different fields of study. But when we look at people like Zarieb, who brought concepts of fashion and the culinary arts, music, and medicine into Europe, right? Or going a little bit beyond the Moorish rule of Spain, we can talk about people like Chevalier de Saint Georges, right? Or we can talk about Alexander Dumas, who wrote The Three Musketeers. So it's different examples of these people who were knowledgeable and very highly skilled in different areas, not just one area, you know what I'm saying? I'm a multi-dimensional person, and I'm just as much as a creative as I am a scientist, an intellectual. And every time that I've tried to condense myself into one thing, into one speciality, into one field of study, I always get claustrophobic, right? So instead of combating my own nature, I'm like, I want to exist how it is that I exist. Now I'm like, okay, I remember I learned about the Moors, right? So now I'm thinking back to my studies and I'm like, okay, well, the Moors would have had to be polymaths. So let me take a deep dive into the Moors and explore them, take a deep dive on that archetype of African and see how I would apply that in my life today. And I'm gonna pull up my Notion here so we can walk through some of the things, or just the idea of this project in a little bit more detail, right? The archetype of a modern Moor, right? And this is a syllabus that I made for myself as a self-guided study. So I'll read the course description for you, right? Here's what we got. This curriculum is an intensive, self-directed, PhD level study of the modern Moor archetype, synthesizing language, pedagogy or teaching methods, African cosmology, ethnological and psychographic history, so like who the Moors were culturally, and the applied arts and science, so studying the STEM, right? Studying the science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and applying them or teaching them as the Moors did. I'm excited and inspired by this idea and the expansiveness of it and the freedom to, truly stimulate myself intellectually but also aesthetically in a multi-dimensional way as the Moors did. I look forward to sharing, where I get with it in the progress as I move along the way. I definitely want to vlog it. So that's where I'm at with it. I'm hoping that everybody enjoys the rest of the day and lives in peace and blessings. And yeah, Ashe.
Fuck a black coat arms on my chest. We was ballin' in Cordoba all the way to Marrakesh. We ain't done till it's over. Get that noose up off your neck. Hey, news flash, buddy, you gon' have to cut a check. You ain't even had it since to go and wash your ass. So how you gon' tell me who, how, and what I am? Soy moro, here's the definition. A child of the sun, shot to any inquisition.